Hi there, welcome back to the Board Game Specialists. We are on episode 37. We're going to be talking about our top 9 food-themed games. I'm Carla.
And I'm Melanie.
And now, Mel, how did you find this theme?
You know what? It was because I was kind of like, okay, Agricola, for example, is that food theme or should that be more farming? So I kind of didn't put ones that were obvious farming per se and try to go more with actual food or food preparation or that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I left out the farming as well.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole other episode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so is one that, because you have so many cutesy food games. And so, yeah, it wasn't too bad to put together. It's not one that I had tons and tons to select from, but
no,
it was a fun one to put together.
But yeah, but it's a fun one. I love food themed games as well. So, what have you been playing lately? Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. And I like food.
Yeah, there you go. It's a good combination. Actually, I got to play a few things. My sister and my nephew came over one day, and we ended up playing Adrenaline, which is a game that she owns. And we were going to play it when I was over at her house the night before, but then we couldn't get to it. So she's like, okay, well, let's go to your house and then you can learn the game and teach it to us. And growing up with my sibling, that's always been the way where I read the rules, learn the game, and then we teach it to the other ones. So I think because of that, my sister doesn't bother learning games. She just waits for me to. So brought it over, and my nephew has declared this one his new most favorite game ever. And this is like a battle arena game. And you each have this little, robot that you would be battling. And you can kind of go into these different sections where you can collect weapons. And then depending on what you've got, you could be like, hey, well, you can shoot this way. And then if they're in this kind of the next room, then you can attack them there. So, and if you destroy them, then you kind of come off the board and then they respawn the next round. It is definitely a battle arena. But it was really neat. And then you get points every time that, when you hit somebody, you put one of your tokens on them showing that you've caused damage. And then when they kind of take too much damage that they die, then you score all the points of damage that they did. So I was like, okay, well, I've hit them more, so I get points for having the majority of the hit. Then somebody would get the kill shot bonus, and then be like, okay, well, I hit him by 4, so I get these points, and then they hit him by 3, so they get these points, and so on. It was really neat. It was apparently I like games where you're just destroying the other players, but so we played this one. It was really cool. Like I said, my nephew's declared this one his new favorite one. And this is a game that I had picked up, put back, picked up, put back. It's like, do I want to get this? And yeah, I should have gotten it. And then with Lee and Patrick, we played Chinatown. I bought Chinatown secondhand, but it was still in shrink. And for me, Chinatown, Foundations of Rome, and Bunny Kingdom all have a very similar score mechanism where it's you own the space. Exactly right. You own the space and you score depending on what you have access to in there, kind of thing. The way you collect the space is all very different. With Bunny Kingdom, it's drafting. With the Foundations of Rome, it's bidding. And then with Chinatown, you're kind of giving random cards and it's negotiating. So you try to trade and negotiate with the other players on the different stuff that you want. You're trying to, I was like, I really want that spot. I'll give you this one. This is close. And, so it's a really neat negotiation game because it's pure negotiation. Anything goes really. And then you score each round as well of the business that you've kind of been able to put together. So you're trying to get everything to kind of work together the best you can. But it's a really neat one. I enjoy that one a lot. Then we played Einstein, and I know it has more like something in the life or something, and I didn't write that down. I just wrote Einstein. And I bought this one at Gobfest on look alone. It was a tiny box. Well, tiny was a smaller box. And in the back, it just had a bunch of different tiles that had like weird formula kind of doodles on it. And I was like, okay, I've known nothing about this, but this looks neat. I want to play it. So I bought it, and then it's up to 4 players, and each player will be a different era of Einstein's life. One when he was like, in his 30s to older, or the globetrotting one when he's kind of going around the world, and when he was really old. And you have these cards that have patterns, and you're trying to play, like on your turn, you'll play 2 tiles onto the main table, so you're all adding it together, and you're trying to create the pattern that's on your card. So when you create the pattern that's on your cards, be like, okay, great, I've got this pattern here, so you get to put that down, and it has a star value to it, and that's going to be points. Now, the ones that are on your cards, they're called like inspiration. If you're using somebody else's tile to complete this, you would give them a star token because they would get a points because you utilize that. Now, there's also the big idea cards that's up for everybody to grab. And if you'd be like, oh, okay, great, I've just put 4 of these shapes together, which gives me this big idea. So you would put that down, then you would get points like that. So you're going around adding these odd shaped tiles to kind of create the big formula on the table. But it's really neat. And then it was frustrating because when I was playing it, it's like, oh, okay, I'll do this. And then all of a sudden, the other player kind of tucks something else in the way for what they have on their card, but it totally wrecked what I was trying to create. But it has really neat table presence. Like, it looks great. And then we played a quick game of Roll For It. Roll For It is probably the most played game out of my collection, just because it's so easy. You have these cards that have different dice symbols on it, and you have 6 dice you roll, and you can assign dice to the different card. Now, you can't bring the dice back unless you bring everything back. So you're assigning dice like, okay, so this one needs 3, 5, and a 4, and it would give you 10 points. So I was like, well, I have a 5 and a 4, so I'll assign that. Then the next round I would keep rolling. And I was like, oh, great, I got another 5, so I'll assign that. And then maybe the other player gains that card, because other player can assign their dice to the same card, and if they win it, then your dice would come back, and you don't get to score the point. But you're trying to collect cards like this, and the first one to get to 40 is the winner. And then we played a game of point salad. It was just me and Patrick playing point salad, and it was kind of nice because Patrick wanted to get a video game, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll buy this video game for you, but you owe me 3 board game plays. So he's been playing with me this week.
In board game minutes.
Exactly. So then point salad was one of the ones that we ended up playing. But I think when you're playing point salad at 2 players, you're supposed to take cards out. And we did it. We played with the full deck of cards. It was insane. I think my score was like 500 and something. Yeah. Like, it was crazy.
You barely used any cards in the 2-player game.
Yeah, we forgot to take them out, so we just played with everything. But it's neat because you have like 3 decks, and you'll have the points to kind of be like, okay, so carrot's worth 2 points, a cabbage is worth 1, and a tomato is worth -2. So like, oh, okay, so you can the different points combination, and then you'll have like you flip that card over, and it's the actual vegetable, and then on your turn you either take 2 vegetable or a point card. And be like, okay, well, I'll take the onion and the carrot, and, kind of because I got cards that gives me points for those, or, so on. And it was neat. But yeah, there was a lot of cards at 2 players, and you don't take out what you're supposed to. But it was neat. So we played point salad, and then that's what I played last week. How about you? What did you end up playing?
So I've been playing point salad as well. I love that game. Mostly on BGA I've been playing it, but it's so quick on there that it's like a 5-minute game, not even. It's so addicting though, because you go for, depending the player count, the game completely changes as well. Because if it's just 2 of you, you can go for whatever they're not going for basically, and then still try to steal some of the cards they need so that they can't get the points. But if it's a multiplayer game, then you really have to kind of spread out a bit and go for a couple different things. But It's such a good game. And they're actually making another game called Point City.
Yeah, so I saw that.
It's going to have a little bit more mechanics in it. It's supposed to be really good. But yeah, so that's one of them I've been playing. I've been playing, tried German Railroads. So that's one of the expansions off of Russian Railroads because I got the big Ultimate Railroads box. And I love Russian Railroads, but we tried the German track. And it's so cool because some of the track is like not there. And as soon as you pull your train up to it, you get to choose these tiles. And so you get to choose one to fill in that spot, which fills in that railroad part. And they'll have like income things that you'll get like once per round. You can use these things. Or there's like, you can get another person, or you can just get all kinds of things. And so you can kind of customize your board that way, which is really neat. And then we also played, well, to explain the game, I mean, it looks very complicated, but it's not. It's just a real cool engine builder. Have you ever played it, Mel?
Which, the Russian Railroad or the...
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
So you start with there's 3 tracks, and then you start with these 3 colored, I guess they're cars on there. And then you will move those up, and they will kind of gain you points and bonus. Well, the first ones won't gain you points, but you'll get to certain points, and then you'll get to add another color behind it. And I think there's 5 different colors. And as you go, each color is worth more points as it's past so many tracks. Like the first one, they're worth nothing, but then the green ones, they're worth like 1 point each. And then if you get the other bronze or copper color on, like, then it's worth like 2 points. And then if you get this big one on, it's worth a bunch of points. So you're trying to push these all up, but there's no way you're going to get through to the end of all 3 tracks. So you got to decide which track to go on, or maybe 2. And really push those up and get the bonuses. And then at the bottom, you also have this, now I'm blanking on the name. It's this factories, that's what it is. Another track, basically, not a railroad track, but you're moving this little wrench up. And those will give you tons of bonuses. And then you also have to up your locomotives, because the higher they are, the more points you'll get. And it's just such an engine building fun game. With, I'd say, a boring theme, but still fun if you just kind of, the mechanics of it is so cool. And I had always heard about it, and people are like, you got to try it. And I'm really not a big train game person. There's a few that I like, but this one is awesome.
Sweet.
So yeah, I did the regular one, the Russian and the German, and there's also Asian and American rail, the expansions in the game that I haven't tried yet. But this one is also on BGA, so you could just give it a try there. It's really neat. Another one, we played Pret.
Oh, nice.
We pulled this one out. Haven't played it in a while. It's an economic game, but you are putting on fashion shows, and you need to have, depending on your what's it called? Like you can display one line of clothing. So it's like a type of clothing, like a color of the cards. And there's like 3 or 4 different colors. And then in it, you have to have certain colors of threads that will, like your recipe, like you have to fulfill this card with these threads. And you also might have like a trendy one that, because you have one at the beginning, say like I'm very trendy in making shoes. So if I can get a bunch of cards with shoes, I'm going to get extra trendy little chips. And so, but how you do this is it's a worker placement. You first will put your workers out and try and get all these different cards to hire people, to build buildings, to have like discounts on thread, and to go to places to buy thread. And you only have 3, I think, that you can, 3 workers that you place out. So it's tight. And then you have to figure out how to get this all before the 3rd round, which is the actual fashion show. And then you can put out one line, and sometimes you might only have 2 cards, but sometimes you might have 3 or 4. And then you'll make money on that. And money is basically points. But it's so neat because of the economic part of it and the worker placement part. So it kind of satisfies both of those. It's such a good game. That's one I passed up on a long time too, until I played it and loved it. Also played Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Nice.
I taught Ashley. She had never played that one. And
how did she enjoy it?
Yeah, she liked it. she, I think she had watched videos before, so she picked it up really fast. But it's such a good little deck builder / worker placement track movement game that the first time I think I played it, I was just like, it's okay. And then as I played it more and more and more, it's one of those that you just love it the more you play. Every time I play, I love it more.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites for sure. I played Dice City. So this one is one of my older games that we seem to pull out once a year. It's funny because we look on our stats and we're like, oh, we literally played this almost a year ago. And then next year we pull it out. Oh, we played this like almost to the day a year ago. But it's such a neat game. It's you have this, everybody has this big board in front of you and it's a grid, and you have rows of different colors, and then the dice go from 1 to 6. And so you'll roll all 5 dice and then you'll place them. So if I have a red 5, I put it on the 5, and then a white 2, that 2 will go up there. And each of those spots do different things. It'll either give you a resource, or it'll give you a battle power, strength, or it'll let you re-roll a dice, or all different things. And you can manipulate your board because you can burn a dice, just take one off your board and move one over to the right or left. So if you need certain things, because what you're doing is you're building buildings, and those buildings will be put right on your board over top of the things you already have. And they're typically better than what's already on your board. Or you'll build these resource like mines and things that will cover up. Instead of only getting 1 coal, it'll let you get 2 coal. And then you also want to build up these trade ships because they're big points. There's other little things you can battle. You can, if you have like 3 battle points, you can battle these, I'm blanking on the name, what they're called again, but it's such a neat mechanic game as well. And so unique. Like, I've never seen anything like it before, but it's a fun one to play. And then the last one we've been playing, well, I've been playing lots, but this is one that is so fun. It's Time's Up Total Recall.
Oh, okay.
So I pulled this one out and we tried it because I've tried it with my family and they love it. So I thought, well, let's see how fun it would be with gamers. And it's hilarious because all you do, it's the same as Monikers. I think it's basically identical to the game. Only you have this like, you start with 40 cards and you'll flip one over, and you typically will have teams of of however many. And so one person will, look at the card, you have a timer, and you'll have, like, say it's a movie, you have to describe this movie in however many words, not using the words on the card, right? And then however many you get, you'll put that in your pile, and then you'll pass the timer to the other team, and they will start with that deck as well, and you'll go until that deck's done. So say I have like 15 cards in my deck and the other team has 10, you write those scores down, then you shuffle them all up and you switch players on the team, like same teams, but then they'll go through the deck and you can only use 1 word to describe what is there. And so then you'll go until the decks are done. And then the third round, you act everything out and you can't talk. So you kind of know what the cards are, though. Like, after the first round, you know what they are. So hopefully you're thinking, okay, this 1 word will describe it. Or when you're acting it out, that's when it gets just ridiculous, because you get to see people's like acting skills and how goofy they are and whatnot. But nice. It's such a fun game. And then Ashley found the Monikers, like a guy was selling it on the used site, and he sold that with, like, I don't know, 5 expansions. So she has this huge box of cards. Like, you're never gonna run out of cards. So it'll be awesome to try that. But yeah, that's some of the games I've been playing. Now, what about, let's get into our top 9. Do you have any honorable mentions?
I didn't write any honorable mention. I just stuck with the 9. Mm-hmm. So my number 9 is one that I've talked about often just because this game is awesome. And that's 5 Cucumbers. So 5 Cucumbers was created in 2013. It's a Friedman Freeze game, and it was published by Stronghold Games. And this one, like, it won me over with the little cucumber wooden bits. Like, that part of the game just looks amazing. And it's a tiny, tiny game, but it's a small trick-taking game. And there's only one suit, the cucumbers. And you will do 7 rounds, and you only score the last round. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to play the first 6 rounds so that you keep a low card if you can for the final round, because you don't want to win the final round. And you'll be playing a card, and then the next person has to match or go higher than the card you've played. If they're unable to match or go higher, then they have to play their lowest card, which is why it's hard sometimes to keep a low card for the final round. So if I played a 5, then the next person played a 7, and then the one person decide I'm going to play a 14, then it'd be like, oh, darn it, a 14. So then they'd have to play the lowest card. Now, if it's a 1, the 1 says times 2 on it. And what it does is it doubles the score of the final round if somebody's able to place a 1 in it. So you really don't, you're trying to get the other players to get rid of their 1s before the final score. And then trying to keep your 1 if you can for the final score. And then when you do the final score, you'll play all of your last card, and then whoever has the highest card has to take that round. So then each card has pictures of cucumbers on it. Now, so like from 2 to 5, there might be just a 1 cucumber, and then from 6, so whatever, there might be 2 cucumbers on there, and I think the most is 4 cucumbers. So if you end up winning the round and you had an 8 and there's 2 cucumbers, then you have to take 2 cucumber wooden bits and put that in your in front of you. If you reach 5 cucumber, you're eliminated, and it's an elimination game where you keep playing until there's only one person standing, and then they're the winner. But it's a super simple game, but it's so fun. And they're, like I said, the cucumber bits are really cool. And that's my number 9, 5 cucumbers.
Awesome. That is such a fun game. My number 9 is New York Slice, and this is made in 2017 by Jeffrey D. Allers. Now, this is a pizza game, and you have these little slices of pizza, which is so cool. So you play typically, I think, 3 rounds, depending on player count, and you will put everything face down, all these slices of pizza, and mix them all up, and then you put them in, arrange them in a pizza, which is 11 pieces, so it's an odd number. You flip them over, and then if you're the active player, you have to slice this pizza into however many pieces you have players. So if I have 3 players, I have to split it up how it's made into 3 pieces. So I might have a piece that has 5, and then one that has 3, and then one that has another 3, I guess. Or I might just there's 2 real juicy pieces, so that everybody wants, that I'll put as one piece, and then the other ones will be bigger, but they're kind of not as great pieces. So it's I split you choose type of game. And so what you're trying to do is, it's a set collection game. You're trying to collect pieces. So some will have pepperoni on them, or some will be meat lovers, and it'll tell you how many pieces of those are in the game. So say the meat lover ones, there's say those are number 8s. I don't know what numbers they are for sure, but then that would mean there's 8 pieces of those in the whole game. So you're trying to have a majority of those pieces. Or there's some that'll be a split. They'll be a half veggie and a half Hawaiian kind of thing. So that one can go either way, once you've made your collection. And then the other thing is the ones with just pepperoni on them, they are basically just points if you eat them. So you can choose, once you take your piece of pie, what you're gonna eat. So you might just keep some, or you might keep them all, and then you might choose to eat some, because you might have, okay, well, that person over there already has the majority of this type, so there's no point in me keeping these, so I will eat them. So you flip them, and you'll get the point per pepperoni on the pizza. Then there's also this, I don't even know what it is, a special, I think it is, this little piece of cardboard that has a special on it. So it's usually something you will stick on the worst piece of pizza when you're split and choosing, because it's a bonus that somebody will get. It can be points at the end of the game, or it can be something that says, okay, well, you get to choose one slice of pizza from the whole pizza before anybody else takes, or it just gives you like, anchovies are typically negatives. For every anchovy that's on your pizza, you get a negative. But if you have this one special, it turns them into positives. It's just a really light but like neat game, and just the presence of it is having these like cardboard slices of pizza, and then you make up your own pizza at the end, and it's really cool. And it's an older game, like I said, 2017, but it'll stay in my collection forever. It comes in literally a pizza box, so you open the box up, and then the scoring card is like a guest check. Like you like an old-fashioned one in a restaurant. And the rule book is like a menu. So it's very thematic and so cool. And I think they've remade this into the pizza theme. I think it used to be a cake theme or pie. I can't remember. But it used to be like different types of cake or pie. And I can't remember even what it was called. But I don't think that one's in print still. But New York Slices. And that's my number 9.
It's one that I've heard a lot about.
Yeah.
And it does look so cool. I almost bought it secondhand one time and talked myself out of it just because the person I was going to buy for would live like so far deep south Calgary. And I was like, I don't want to drive all the way over there. So that I backed down. Oh, that does look cool. That's such a neat looking game.
There's the menu and then all the pizza slices.
That's cool. Some like just the presentation of that game looks so neat that yeah for sure.
I need perfect. To pull it so that was, and it's a really good one for new gamers too, because just to see something like that, and just to like set collection everybody can do, right? And it's like it's so cool.
Yeah, it's on my wish list. Eventually, I'll have it too.
Oh yeah, you can find this used, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, my number 8 is Sushi Go Party. This one was published in 2016. It's a Phil Walker Harding game, and it was published by Game Right. And I got this game, I got Sushi Go and then Sushi Go Party fairly early on when I got into the hobby. And apparently at one point I yelled out, "Go Sushi Go" in my sleep. So I dream of this game as well, apparently. But this is a really neat set collection card drafting game. And basically everybody starts with, I don't know how many cards, but you have so many cards, and you'll look at them and then you pick one and you pass it on to the next player. And then you get the next one coming. And then like some of them will be like the tempura shrimp will be worth so many points if you have 2 of them. Or it could be the, I don't know, like the little California roll or something like that. But whoever has the most would score something. Or there's different things you're collecting, different ingredients you're collecting that you'll score in different ways. So you're kind of going around collecting these cards that you're drafting and passing it on. And then you kind of create this set and then you'll score that. There's the little pudding ones where you don't score these until the final round, which is the 3rd round. So those will just kind of get added and you're waiting for the final round to get those ones. You get like the nigiri, and then some of them, if you get wasabi doesn't actually give you any extra points, but if you're able to put a different card along with it, it'll double the value of the card that you've put it on. So it's a really neat, but the artwork too is so cute and cartoony. And the Sushi Go is great, and you play the game and it's perfect. But Sushi Go Party just makes it so that you can change up the game between each round. Like each time you play, you could be like, okay, well, let's play with these cards and these cards. So there's multiple cards that you can play with, and you would just kind of select a variety of cards to play that round. And then they've kind of done them so that if you're playing 2 players, it's best with this combination. If you have a larger group, this card combination would be a little bit better for that. Or if you like a lot of take that, then we suggest you do this combination. Like they call it the menu, depending on how you want to play. But Sushi Go was like my stocking stuffer every year. Like if I come across them for cheap, then I buy a few and then I give those to everybody. I really like it. And that's my number 8, Sushi Go Party.
Yes, I love this game too. This was definitely on my honorable mention list. I don't get to play it enough, but I love it, and it'll always stay in my collection as well. And you did get the big box, you said, the party one? Yeah. It's awesome because you can just mix and match, do whatever, and there's so much selection to choose from. Good one. My number 8 is Gingerbread House by Phil Walker Harding. This is made in 2018. And this one is a neat game because it's all about the Hansel and Gretel kind of thing. The old witch, made this big gingerbread house and everybody's eating it, I think. They're coming to nibble on it. So then she's trying to capture people. And how she's doing it is you're building this big gingerbread house in front of you. And it's kind of 3D because you'll build it up. It's not big, I guess, but it's like a 4x4 little grid you have. And you will have these tiles. Everybody has a stack of tiles in their possession. And you'll flip over 3 and you can choose which one to use. And some of them will have on them different types of gingerbread. So depending on the color and the shape, like you'll have little hearts or... I can't remember the exact shapes of them. There's definitely hearts there. But you'll place it on your board. And if you ever get 2 beside each other, then you get to grab, if you get 2 of the same beside each other, you get to grab 2 of those, because there's little chips that you'll grab. So if I have 2 hearts, I'll get to grab 2 hearts. But because they're beside each other, I'll get to grab an extra one. And whatever is on your tile is what you get to grab. Then you also have these little steps because as you're building it around, you might have to build up, but you can't just hang over a tile. So if it's like hanging there, you can stick in this little stair and that'll fill in the spot. And you're just trying to basically collect all these different little gingerbreads because once you get what you need, you get to fulfill these cards and catch these people, these little... whether they're humans or whether they're little fairy tale creatures, and they all give you points, right? So you'll need so many different types of gingerbread to collect one of them, and you'll get to take it. And then there's also these objective cards that you'll get to take as, say, once you get, say, 3 non-human characters, you get to grab that card, and it's worth points. And then you can also, there's one little thing on your board, if you place it on, I can't remember what the symbol is, but you get to grab a card and just put it at your gate so nobody else can try and get that person. You haven't actually captured him yet, but he's just sitting at your gate and you're the only one that'll be able to do it. But knowing okay, that person over there has almost what they need to fulfill that one, and I'm working on that one. And it's part of I think you have an end game goal as well. And it's part of what I need, so you can kind of put them at your gate there. It's really light, but still thinky with the puzzly part of your little gingerbread house that you're building. And it's so neat. It's kind of I almost feel like it's like a Christmassy game too, just because of the gingerbread that I like to play. Well, I could play it any time of the year, but good old Phil Walker Harding. That's my number 8, Gingerbread House.
I haven't played that one before, but I've heard of it, so it sounds interesting. My number 7 is... I was going to say the oldest one in my list, but it's not. It's the second oldest one on my list. And that is Mamma Mia. It was published in 1998, and it's a Hugh Rosenberg game. And it was published by Rio Grande. Oh, that's funny. My oldest game is also a Hugh Rosenberg game, so you'll have to wait for that one. But Mamma Mia is super cool. You're making pizzas. And you have these cards, and then all the cards have different ingredients. So it'll be a mushroom, or a pepper, or black olive, or there'll be a pineapple, or there'll be pepperoni, and so on. And you have a bunch of these ingredient cards, or you'll also have some order cards. So, and what you'll do is you'll take turn playing cards into the middle pile. And this is the oven. So you're putting all these ingredients in the oven. And you can play multiple cards at once as long as it's all the same ingredients. So it'd be like, okay, well, I'm putting 3 mushrooms. And you put your 3 mushrooms in the middle. And then you kind of keep going around adding cards to the oven. And when you think this oven has enough ingredients for your order, it's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure this all got played. So then on your turn, you can play an order card. and then you keep adding more ingredients, and then it's like, okay, well, you got to remember that this order card came up and that ate up some of the mushrooms and the pineapple, but I think there's enough other ingredients to do this order now, so then you can play another order. And it's a bit of a memory push your luck kind of game, a little bit. Then once you've played all of your ingredients, then the round stops. You take that pile that's the oven and flip it over, and you start pulling out the ingredients and stacking them in the different categories, like the different ingredients you got. And then when an order comes in, say, okay, well, we have this order. So this order needed pepperoni and pineapple, and all those cards have like your color. So if I was the yellow player, that order would be a yellow card. So then be like, okay, well, we got the pepperoni here. Oh, you got only 2 pineapples, you needed 3. Now, because it's my card, I do have the option of looking in my hand, and if I have the missing ingredient, I can add it to fulfill my order. And then if the order is done, then that's great. I put that aside, and that's going to count towards my points. If I wasn't able to complete it because there wasn't enough ingredients than I thought there was, and then it goes back into my hand or back into the order pile, and I would have to try to fulfill this order at a later time on the next rounds, right? So when you kind of go through that, and everybody collects their orders that's been completed, you kind of reshuffle all the cards, and then you play again. And you think you do 3 rounds, and then whoever's fulfilled the most order in 3 rounds, the winner. This one is neat. It is so neat. My memory is horrible. I suck at remembering the details of different things. So I'll be like, okay, are there mushrooms in there? I think there's a lot of mushrooms in there. I'll put in the order, and then the order comes in, and there's only 1 mushroom. It's like, why did I think there was so many mushrooms? But it's a quick, simple game, but it's so much fun. And that's my number 7, Mamma Mia.
That one is definitely on my wish list, and I didn't physically put it on, but I'm putting it on right now.
Nice.
You always talk about this, and I always hear about it. But I never pick it up, probably because I'm terrible at memory games. Absolutely terrible. People laugh at me how terrible I am at memory games. But I still want to get better, and it sounds so fun. So that's a good choice. My number 7 is Truffle Shuffle, made in 2020 by Molly Johnson, Robert Melvin, and Sean Stankovich. Now, these 3 people you are going to hear on my list a few more times. Is it?
Okay.
1, 2, at least 2 more times. They design they've designed a lot of food games. They have 3 of them right here, but this one is so neat. It's a card drafting game, but it uses the same mechanic as Seven Wonders Duel, where you have this pyramid of cards, a reverse pyramid of cards. No, is it a reverse pyramid? I think. Yes, it's a reverse pyramid. Kind of.
Okay.
Could be just a pyramid. But anyway, you have these cards laid out, and you can only take the bottom cards, right, that are flipped up. And you can't take the ones that are under it until you've taken those cards and revealed another card. Then you flip it up, and you can see what they are. You can always see the color on the backs of them. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to make all these basically poker sets. Or some of them are poker sets. Like you want to make some runs, or you want to make some like all of a kind. And what you do is once you get like what you want to fulfill, like the biggest one is like 5 of a kind of one color, then you get like the most money for it. So you will change in those cards and take your money. Now you have 3 rounds in the whole game. So you're trying to fulfill all these things and make money. But you also have cards, and what you have on these cards are truffles, chocolate truffles, and they're just beautiful. How they just have one little single big truffle in the middle, and they look so delicious, so that helps as well. But so you're collecting different colors and sets, but you also have some of these cards that will have like on it, it'll be a wild number, and it can be any number, but it's this certain color. So, because you know on the back it was pink, so you knew you're getting a pink card, but you flip it, and here it just has a number sign, so it can be any number in that color. Or you might pull a card that can be any color, but it's a certain number. And then there's all different types of things. Then you have a card that you can change a color to another color. So you kind of look in your hand, you're like, oh, okay, I really need this 4 to be blue. So I'm going to use this card to change it. And then I have my big set of what I need. There's also cards in there that'll say you'll play it and you'll skip a turn, but then next time you get to pick up 3 cards or 2 cards because you want that person to reveal this card because you want the 2 underneath it. So you're hoping that'll happen. Or it comes to a point where sometimes there's only 1 card you can take to open up all these other cards and you don't want that color. So you're going to play that. And the neat thing too, at the end of the round, you have to have gotten rid of all your cards, or you can only hold up to as amount of cards as there are players. So if you've been building up all these things and the last card's drawn and you haven't sold any and you're stuck with all these cards, well, they're all gone. So you have to sometimes, you can't just work on the perfect sets. You just have to work on some of the lower sets just to get lower points because you're not going to be able to do it in that round. And then the next round, you will build the pyramid again, and you do this 3 times. And it's just really neat. And the drafting I love. I love that way of drafting cards where you can kind of see what's coming up, or the color at least. Well, I don't want those, so I'm not going to take this card. I know they've been collecting these, so I'm not going to grab this one because they want those green ones underneath. And it's such a light, nice, pretty game. And that's my number 7, Truffle Shuffle.
Neat. Yeah, I haven't played that one, but I've seen it, and it does, like, the artwork looks really neat on that one.
Oh, yeah.
And that was your number 7. My number 6 is probably the one that's, like, questioning my farming rule here. I kind of went with this isn't really farming, so I put it on the list, and that's Heaven and Ale. It was published in 2017 by Michael Kiesling and Andrea Schmidt, and it was published by Eggert Spiel. And this is probably one of the heavier game I have on my list as well. But it's such a neat game, and you're collecting all these ingredients where all this different food to make beer, basically. And you're going around this big board, and you can go as far forward as you want to collect what you want, but then you can never go back. So if you go like one space at a time, because it's whoever's in the back kind of goes next, so then they can kind of skip ahead and get stuff that possibly you would want. So be like, okay, I really need to get this one ingredient, so I'm gonna skip these and get here before somebody else gets it. And then they would kind of get to play until you catch up. But then you'll kind of go on these different space. And then when, like, you can collect ingredients, or you can collect monks, or there's a place where you can kind of score different things. And then if you get the ingredient tile and you're going to add this to your player board, and you got this map, and there's 2 sides. You got like the darker side and the lighter side. The one side's going to give you where you can move the ingredient track up, and you have all the different ingredients I think there's 5 different ingredients, and they all start at different levels as well. But you want to concentrate on moving all of these up as much as possible, because the way that you're going to score in the end is however far your highest one is going to be the multiplier, and your lowest ingredient is what gets multiplied. So if you don't move everything up, then and you've got one that kind of lagged behind, your score is going to be lower because you didn't move this up. So you want to kind of concentrate on everything. But on the light side, it's going to move the ingredients up. On the darker side, it's going to give you money to be able to do all these things. And you're kind of strategically placing these on your board, and when you surround a village, then you get to score that village, and depending on the total score around the village, how many you would get to score, or which one you would get to score, and so on. Like, it's fairly intricate, really, but it's a neat game. And that's my number 6, Heaven and Ale.
Yeah, I really like that game too. I tried to replay it at Gobfest there. You kind of half taught us, but then you had to go to play a game, and then no one was really into it because we had to keep looking at the rule book. So I'm like, I still got to play this again because it's so good. Nice. All right, my number 6 is Cafe, made in 2020 by Rolla Costa. That sounds funny. It's actually Rolla Costa, not roller coaster, but roller coaster.
Nice.
I just realized it when I said it. Anyway, this is a small box game. And what you do is you start with this cafe. You have this little card in front of you, and you have these action points that you can use if you build up to them. At the beginning, you only start with one because you have 1 cup of coffee in your first cafe. And then you have these colored cubes, which are coffee beans. You start with 1 of each color. And so what you do is you're going to draft a card from the middle. And what the cards will have on them is just single colored coffee beans. They'll have roasters. They'll have, I can't remember the name of the one thing, but it's what you put, a dryer, that's what it is. You also have other cafes on there that you want to satisfy, or ships, that if you're going to ship things, or you will also have a cup of coffee, and that will, every cup of coffee you have in your cafe gives you an extra action. So you'll draft a card from the middle, and then you'll add it to your cafe. And what you have to do is you have to cover up at least 2 things on your card. So there are some blanks, so you can cover up the blanks, but you're always going to have to cover up something that's already there. So I might possibly cover up a bean that's already there. So I'll place this card on, hopefully just cover a blank spot in a bean. And what you're trying to do is connect beans together, because if they're, whatever's all connected, when you do your actions, you can do those things at the same time as one action because they're all connected. So when I do my actions, say it's further down the line and I have 4 or 5 actions and I have my cafe built out with like a bunch of different things. So one of the actions I can do is produce. So I can produce these beans. So I will put a color. So say I have a green, a red, a brown, a yellow, a red, another green. I get to put all those cubes on the beans. And then another action I can do is dry them. So I can take all of the light colored beans, and those don't have to be touching, and I can put them on the dryer so that they can dry. But you can only have the same color on one dryer. But if I have a bunch of dryers together, like touching, then I can put different colors on each of the dryer for one action. But if they're all over the place, you have to use an action to do that. Then I can roast them is another action. So I can take all of the colored beans and roast. And again, if I have roasters together, I can do it in one action and take different types of beans and roast. And then another one is you can deliver. So what you're doing is you're delivering either to other cafes that you may have on your board that want just say like 2 red, 1 green or something, and then they'll give you points at the end. Or you will just bring them into your own cafe. And then the scoring is so neat because at the end of the game, you will score for all the cafes that you have satisfied, but also in your own cafe, you do want to build up a bunch of beans because whatever is the lowest, you will get 3 points per bean. I believe it's 3.
Oh, okay.
And whatever's the second lowest, or maybe it's 2 points and then the second lowest is 1 point. So you don't want to just build up a whole bunch of red because it's always your lowest. So you have to evenly build up these beans, right? Because if you go ahead too far, then you only have one of these, that's all you're going to score. So you have to evenly build these up. And it's just a real puzzly, thinky game. I play it a lot solo, but I did try it with my daughter a couple weeks ago, and she really liked it. Just the thinkiness, and it's so pretty. The art is so nice, and it's just a real simple, light, nice coffee game. And that's my number 6, Cafe by Roller Coaster.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of that one. Well, I might have seen it in passing, but I hadn't really heard much about doing that one.
Yeah.
Now, I've my number 5. This is one that I played at AutoFest many years ago. FallCon was hosting a game room there, and I ended up playing this with Amy because I was running the library, and it kind of got a quiet time, so me and Amy ended up playing that, who's also with FallCon. And this is Wasabi, and this was published in 2008. It's a Josh Capel and Adam Gertzbane, and it was published by Z-Man Game. And this is interesting. You have this little menu thing that you would put cards in, and this is your menu, and these are what you're trying to accomplish. And then you have all these different ingredient tiles that you'll be adding on to the tile. And then the menu will be like, okay, well, you want to have one of these, and one of these in a row. So you're playing this on this tile that everybody's adding to, trying to create somewhere this row of ingredients so that you can complete your meal or your dish. And then some of them are easier. There's only 2 ingredients, so they're easier to get 2 ingredients together. While some of them are quite a bit more difficult because it has a long list of ingredients, but they're worth way more points. And then you can kind of collect more. It's like, well, I'm going to try to get another easy one because that's going to be easier. Or it's like, oh, I'm going to go for the point. I'm going to try to do one of the big ones. But you're not the only one adding tiles to this board either. The other player is too. It's like, oh, I didn't want that there. It's like, or, so. And some ingredients are not as common as others as well. And it was a neat game, kind of a tile placement, trying to create this pattern. And that's my number 5, Wasabi.
Do you have this game?
I don't. I've only played it that one time. It's a neat looking game. Like, and it's kind of like the board is made to look like, what is it? Like the bamboo stick that you would roll up your, yeah. Oh. So it looks really cool.
The bamboo mat.
Right.
Is underneath it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of my Grail games that I've been trying to find because it's out of print. You can't find it. So you're lucky you got to play it. I've never played it, but I'd love to.
Well, I think it's in the Falcon Library.
Really?
I think so, because that's why it was there.
I have to dig for it next time. Cool. All right, my number 5 is Point Salad, made in 2019 by those same 3 designers, Molly Johnson, Robert Melvin, and Sean Stankovich. And we just talked about this game, but I love it so much. It's such a simple concept. You just either take the veggies or you take a point card. The cool thing, too, is you could take point cards at the beginning, like if you want to just before you take veggies, because you don't know what you're going to score, right? And so you could take a bunch of different ones, and then on each turn, you can flip one of those point cards. So if there's one where you're like, oh, I don't want to score that one anymore because there's too many negatives on there that I have those veggies, you can flip it and it just becomes a veggie. So it's such a cool mechanic game and so simple. But I love it so much. My number 5, Point Salad.
Well, my number 4 is also Point Salad. So, and I mean, this one it looks great. The bright artwork. Yeah. It's a simple, fun filler game. We played this with Patrick one time, and he collected only carrots. And had just the right point cards that he ended up winning with just carrots in his hands. It's just a fun one. So yeah, my number 4 is Point Salad.
Awesome. My number 4 is kind of a crossover from you, but not really. It's a dice version of a card game you chose. And as much as I love cards, I absolutely love cards, well, I love dice more. And this is Sushi Roll. This is made in 2019 by Phil Walker Harding. I love the whole concept of that game, the Sushi Go Party, but the Sushi Roll adds dice instead of cards. So instead of holding this hand of cards and switching it around, you have dice on this little conveyor belt, which is neat because everyone will have a group of dice in front of them and they roll them all, put them on there, and they get to draft one. And then everybody will draft in order, and then you will pass this conveyor belt to the next person. So you'll get basically like passing your hand of cards. But the one thing is neat, I don't know if it's chopsticks or it's one of the things that will come up that you can, if in player order, so I can use this dice to steal, or sorry, no, it's a chip that you would have gotten from a dice that you would have already had. I can use it to steal somebody else's on their conveyor belt and switch it with one of mine. So it's kind of a little bit different than in the card game. You can't do that because you can't see people's hands of cards in front of them, but you can see everyone's dice. So you can take one and then switch it, and then you can draft that one as well. So you can kind of draft from around if you have these, now I can't remember if it's chopsticks or menus. It's one of the things that will let you do that. But it's so neat because you're just doing basic set collecting as well. And there's less variety than there are in the cards because you don't have as many, like the Go Party, you have this whole box of cards that you can, mix up the game. Whereas this one, it's just what you get. There's just a little menu of the different choices. Only 6 different things that can be on a 6-sided die, right? But it's so neat and I love it. And that's my number 4, Sushi Roll.
Yes, Sushi Roll is neat, but to me, and that was on my list, but a little bit lower. I still like the card version a little bit better for me.
I like rolling them dice. Even though I'm terrible usually at dice games, whatever I need to roll, I do roll the opposite.
My number 3 is Chai, and that was published in 2019. It's by Dan and Connie Kazmaier. And it's published by Steeped Games. And this one, the components on this one are worth mentioning. Now, the copy I have, I'm pretty sure is a Kickstarter copy to begin with because you have the metal coins. And then it also comes with cardboard coins, so that's why I know the metal coins is an upgrade. Yeah. But you have these little plastic cups that you're going to kind of put all your orders in, and these are all engraved and detailed, and they look amazing. And you have these chunky tiles that you'll put to the market that has different ingredients you'll be collecting, and they're kind of like the Azul tile, like they have that type of feel to it, so they're very satisfying and clunky. And then the market is kind of interesting because you can select one ingredient that you're going to collect, and you can collect anything that's touching with that same ingredient. So if there's 3 vanilla in a row, then you can go ahead and take the 3 vanilla. And
is
then
it only in the row, or is it columns too?
Oh, yeah, in the row and up and down, as long as it shares a side per se. And you're going to pay whichever one is the furthest up, because you got these different sections. The first section costs $1. The second one is $2, $3. Well, if you have a row and it reaches the $3, then for that combination, you're going to have to pay $3, but you get to take all of those and put them on your board. But you got limited space on your board as well. And then there's also this other area, the pantry, that you can go in, and then you can get your honey there, or your milk, or different things that you would add to your tea also. And then we all have, you play as a different color player, but each player, so if I was the green player, I would have these green little tokens for the green tea. So for any order that has a green tea, you need to use one of the green tea tokens that are mine. And if you're going to do a green tea token, a green tea order, then you would have to pay me $1 to take one of my green tea to be able to do your order. Then you kind of put everything, and then you have these orders on the table. Is that okay? Well, I'm going to do this one. So you take the order, you fulfill it, you take all the ingredients that you need to do, and you put them in one of the cups. And then you flip over to see if you got a tip. Right? So it could be oh, great, I get a couple coins. Oh, I got nothing here, or so on. And then you kind of fill in these. And then the round is over when all the the cups and the tips have been flipped. So then you do the next round. It's kind of just honestly the component of what really wins me over with this game. It's just such a neat looking game. And that's my number 3, Chai.
Awesome. I've played this game once. Actually, I demoed it at FallCon, but I also demoed Chai Tea for 2.
Oh, I haven't played that one yet.
Yeah, that one's coming on Kickstarter. I think it's this month, actually. I'm going to pick that up in Calgary. So looking forward to that. But yeah, they just make beautiful games, this couple. Mm-hmm. So nice. Awesome. My number 3 is Naramata, made in 2021 by Chris Diaz. Now, this one is a game about the Naramata Trail, which is a wine tour trail in the Okanagan, which is just close to us. Well, the next province over in BC, which I have been to. I've been to some of these wineries, so it's really cool. I've done a girls' trip where we did a bunch of these wineries. And so the game came out and he had it on Kickstarter, and I'm like, I've got to get this game. This is so cool. So, and you could have, I think you would have had to pay, obviously, to get yourself as one of the tourists in the game. And it was a ridiculous amount, so I didn't do it. But it's funny because there's some content creators are in there, like Mick and Starla are in the
nice.
Jeffrey, no, what's his name? Jeffrey. He's from MVM.
What's his
name? Jeremy Howard is in it.
Right.
And then there's some other ones that I don't recognize, but they claim that they're in there, but I don't know who they are. But anyway, so you have these tourist cards, and on the board is this big trail of all these wineries that you can visit, and you can only go one way, just like in Tokaido. You know, you can't go backwards, you can only go forwards, but there's different paths you can start from, and you can choose once you have your hand of cards where you want to go. And so you're taking your little vehicle, and you all have different vehicles. Like someone will have like a Hummer, someone will have like a Tesla, and someone has like the hippie van, and that's your player board as well. So you have these cool little wooden vehicles that you will move around. And you'll stop at these different wineries. And each winery, most of them will offer different things. Some will offer, like, you can have a cheese tasting. And so you might choose the cheese tasting because some of your clients or tourists, I guess, want cheese tasting on their cards. So you're trying to satisfy these cards in your hand. And you will stop at the cheese tasting, and then you pick cards from the cheese pile. You get to choose a couple, and then you only can keep so many out of them, depending on how much they cost or whatnot. And then you will place them on your board. You just kind of line them up on your board or stack them in front of the customer that you want to satisfy, because your customers are actually out in front of you. And so then another thing you could do is you could do a wine pairing. And so and everything takes time. So that's kind of, you're paying time with things. And so you have this track of your meeples on the top as well. And so like a cheese tasting only takes maybe a half an hour, but a pairing takes like 2 hours, right? Because you're going to have wine, you're going to have meal, and most of your customers want to have one of those. So you kind of have to time that one at a certain time, because you will get all these little chips that will give you things to buy more, like cheese and wine. And I don't think it's money. It's called prestige, I think, that you get. So the pairing gives you lots of those. But the later you go to it, the less you'll get. So you kind of have to time things. So you do a couple little quick things, or you might stop at a winery and actually, I think you sign a contract or something, and then you collect a bottle. So it's these little wooden wine bottles that you'll collect. And then next time, because there's like 3 or 4 rounds, the next round you go there, if you have the wine bottle, you get to do all the things that are at that winery. But you do take an hour to just sign a contract and basically take a bottle. So you're like, do I waste time doing that? But then the next 2 rounds, I'm going to get to do a bunch of stuff at this one. And there's only so many bottles on the board. So you have to choose wisely which one you want and get them before the other people get to those places. You can't go to the same winery as somebody else, so they kind of block that spot once they get there. And once you go to a cheese tasting or just like a wine tasting, you will put a token on the board, and those are blocked as well. So they're blocked through the whole game, because then once you get to the end, you start back over, you get a new hand of cards, and then you choose where you're going to start. But some of those places are blocked. So you're like, unless you have that wine bottle, you can't do those things. So you kind of have to strategically figure out, okay, well, now I got to go up here because I really need cheese. They really want to do this. There's another one where you can stop and take photos because people want just pictures along the trail. And it's just really neat and really pretty. The art is quite interesting because it's not, it's kind of cartoony, but it's neat in its own way, and it's pretty. The colors on the board are very like soft purpley, light reddish, and then you also have these like bonus cards or like power cards that you can buy that will give you like a power throughout the game or certain things. But such a neat game, and it's so neat to have it as like a trail near us that was a wine tasting trail. Like, it's kind of unique. You've never seen anything like it. And that's my number 3, Naramata.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Finca. So that was published in 2009. It's created by Wolfgang Satker and Ralph Zerlind. And it was published by Rio Grande Game. Now, I've played this one a long, long time ago when I first got into the hobby. And it was a friend of mine. This was his copy. I don't own this one, but it was neat. And you had all these little wooden bits for each of the fruit that you can collect. But there's like figs or lemons or limes and all these kind of tropical fruit to me anyways. And you have the board that has this mat that has all these different locations with orders to fulfill. So these ones, they need 2 lemons here. And then like you got these tiles that are stacked for each location. And then you have in the corner this big rondelle thing. And then you take like the tiles of the rondelle, you kind of shuffle them and you place them around there. And this is where your players are. And the way that like you move, I think it's like depending on how many players on the space that you're on is how many spaces you can go ahead, and then you land on the lemon, so you get to collect the lemon wooden bit thing. So you're collecting these fruit to fulfill these orders. Like I said, this was such a long time ago that I played it, but it just, the look of the game and all the wooden bits and like the whole presentation and that rondelle mechanism, that was the first time I think that I was exposed to a rondelle. It was so neat, and that's my number 2, Finca.
Cool. I've seen this game, but I've never played it as well. That looks neat. My number 2 is Dollars to Donuts, made in 2021 by the 3 designers again, Molly Johnson, Robert Melvin, and Sean Stankovich. Now this one's a little bit of a bigger game compared to those 2 small box games that I had, like compared to Point Salad and Truffle Shuffle. This one, it's not a big game, but it's a bigger box, meaning it's still a light, medium game. It's so neat, though. You have these player boards that are just a grid, and you start with some half donuts on your board, and then you're drafting these donut tiles. Now, these tiles are kind of longer rectangles, and you can place them anywhere on your board, and they all have half donuts on them. So you're trying to match up these donuts that are on your board. And if you match up the same donut, like a plain to a white plain, and you make one, then you get to take one of those donuts out, and it's basically victory point, but you can also use it for something else, which I'll explain. But another thing is if you match donuts that are not the same, say I match a chocolate with a strawberry donut, I get to pull out of this bag however many dollars are on the donut, because each half donut has like a little dollar amount. So if the half donut has, one side has a 2 and the other one has a 3, you get to get the highest amount. So if I have $3 on those 2 halves, which is the higher, I get to pull out 3 of these dollars that come out of this bag. So one side is $1 that I can use to buy the tiles at the top, which those long rectangle tiles you have to buy. The first one's free, and then it costs $1, $2, $3, $4, and so on. So you can use them for that, or you can flip them over, and they might be little, like, I'm going to call them Timbits because we're Canadian, but they're little donut holes. And so you can use them as those to fill in your board. And when you get pairs of light colored donut holes, they'll give you certain points. The plain or 1, the chocolate or 2, the strawberry or 3, or the pink, whatever. But you could also have on there another half donut. So it's just one square, which will help you fill in, and just like, you can put it up next to anything and either get that donut if you put it to a like, or if you put it next to a different colored one, you can pull more out of the bag. Now, another thing you can do once you collect these actual donuts, like I said, you can keep them for victory points, and they go up higher as they go from plain to chocolate to strawberry to blue sprinkles. But there's these customers that want to be satisfied, and they have rows of how they want to be satisfied. So the first row might just be a plain and a chocolate, and then the second row might be a chocolate, a strawberry, and a plain, and then the third row might be a little bit like they just want a blue sprinkle. So how you satisfy these customers is if you choose to satisfy one, you take the card and you put all the donuts you have to satisfy them on the card, but you only have the one chance to do it. Like, I can't put this customer down and then just slowly build up and put the donuts on. When I take the customer, I have to fulfill whatever I want at that time. And you have to fulfill at least the top row, and then you can go down. And so each row will give you more points. The first row, say, might give you 3 points, the second row 5, and then so on. So you have to figure out too, like, oh, do I want to do half satisfy this customer, but I know they have a bunch of donuts and they're going to do it. So I got to take this one. Or do I wait until I have all of them so that I can get the big points? And the other thing too is you want to satisfy different colored customers, because for every set you've satisfied at the end, you get a certain amount of points. But on the other hand, you want to satisfy the most of one color, because then you'll get a majority scoring for that. So there's all different scoring that are involved, but it's just such a neat, pretty game with collecting these little donuts and matching them up on your player board and trying to, like, it's a puzzly thing, trying to get as many donuts as you can, but also trying to match up some mismatched ones so you can pull out of the bag. And it's fun. And I've been playing, we played it a 3-player game, and then I tried the solo, and there's like kind of a little mini campaign. You go through all these different certain customers that you have to satisfy in order to win the game. So it's a different mindset of just trying to fill your board, but it's so neat and so cute, and that's dollars to donuts.
Nice.
My number 2.
Okay, so we're on number 1. My number 1 is my oldest game on the list. And this is just a classic, and that's Bohnanza. So Bohnanza was published in 1997. It's a U. Rosenberg game, and it was published by Amigo. And this is one that I like playing. Every time it comes out, we enjoy it. And the artwork is cartoony beans that have like little personality, like it's a bean dressed up in different things, like the black-eyed beans, the boxer, and so on. And it's just so fun. And it's one of those games where you get and you have so many cards and you cannot sort your cards. You got to keep them in the order that they are played. And on your turn, first you have to plant at least one bean. You can plant more, but you have to plant at least one bean. And you have 2 gardens you can plant on. And you can't plant different type of beans together. You got to plant the single beans. So you're trying to set your hand up so that you plant what's already on your garden so you can build up. Because the more beans you have planted in your bean when you cultivate it, the more points it's going to be worth. And depending on the bean, right? Like, so, but like you got like the wax bean, maybe it's like once you reach 10 beans, it's worth 4 coins or something like that. So you're trying to create this set collection to get to the point where you can maximize the number of points you're going to get for your garden for those beans. But as I mentioned, you can't sort. So be like, oh, great. I have a stink bean coming. I can't use it. I would have to, kind of cultivate one of my garden to make room to plant a stink bean. And I don't want to yet because I got the wax bean just behind the stink bean. So then when like part is like you score and then you flip 2 cards over that'll have different beans and then you negotiate. Okay, who wants to trade? And it'll be like, I'll give you a stink bean. And then it's like, I noticed that you've got also black-eyed beans on your card. So I will give you a black-eyed bean and a stink bean. So, well, I want just a black-eyed bean. Is like, no, the stink bean's part of the deal. And you just negotiate with each other, trying to get the beans that are going to mess up your garden out if you can, and be like, well, I wasn't able to negotiate it out, so I have to plant it. So then you would have to cultivate one of your garden to place your bean in. And then, well, I'm cultivating it too soon. I was hoping to get 4 points, but I only get 2. So then you would discard all the beans you've cultivated, but you would keep 2 of them, flip them over because the back is the coins. And then the rest goes into the discard pile and so on. And you do this for 3 rounds, and it's whoever has the most coins at the end of the game is the winner. But this is just such a neat game. I really enjoy this one. The Bohnanza Duel kind of put a neat spin to a 2-player game, because like, how do you negotiate when it's only 2 players? Well, the Bohnanza Duel, they've figured that out. And I really enjoy this one, and that's why it's my number 1, Bohnanza.
That's a really good choice. I love this game too. I just can't find anyone to play with that really likes it. I've tried it, I think, with my family. I've tried it with some gamers, and they're just like, nah. I'm like, what? This is an awesome game.
This is so good.
It's so good. And the duel is so fun because you get to have, you satisfy these things that'll give you like say 75 cents or something. So not quite the dollar. So at the end you add up all these different coin amounts, and it's so neat. I love the 2-player game too. Good choice.
Yeah.
All right, my number 1 is Chocolate Factory, made in 2019 by Matthew Dunstan and Brett J. Gilbert. This is such a pretty game. You're making chocolate. How could it not be? You have...
Can't go wrong.
Exactly. You have this factory in front of you, and you have these conveyor belts, and what you're doing is you're going to draft employees, and you're going to also draft these factory parts that will help you make different types of chocolates. So it's neat how they group these as well. As you'll group like 3 employees, 2 and a 2, say for like a 2-player game, and you get to choose one of those packs, and then the same with the factory parts. So you'll do kind of a snake draft, because you'll draft, the first person will get to draft one of those. So they can either choose employees or they can choose factory parts. And they'll take one group of them, but then they only get to pick one out of those. And then the next person, if it's just a 2-player game, will get to draft one of each. And then the other player will get to draft whatever they didn't the first time. But what you're doing is the employees will usually give you like a player power through that round, because you only have them for that round. And the employee that you draft also will have a store that is where you want to deliver to at the end of the round, because there's, I think, 6 or 7 stores that you want to deliver to, and those will give you big points. So you really want to do those. But the other thing you also want to do is you have these little cards on your own board on the top. They're called corner shops, and you want to fulfill those as well. And you can only fulfill them starting the bottom and going up. Now, the chocolates that you're making are so neat. The components in this game are wooden, like you have just a cocoa bean, and then you have just a piece of chocolate, and then it turns into a fingered, like, what are they called? Chocolate fingers or chocolate squares, I guess they are, but they kind of look like a little checkerboard. And then from there, they turn into... what's it called? Paper covered candy. So they look like caramels that are like wrapped in like cellophane, but they're wooden, and those come in 2 different colors. And then those would upgrade to a box of chocolate. So it's this little blue hexagon box, and it's so neat. And then I've seen also on like different Etsy sites and stuff that they've even upgraded those to be even better looking resources, but they are so neat, the ones they come with. They just make you want to eat chocolate all night, though. That's the problem. But it's so neat, because then, so what you're doing is, okay, you place these factory parts in, and then the next phase is you run your factory. So you start with, each round you get a certain amount of coal, and the coal is used to run each factory part. So some factory parts only need 1 or 2 coal, but some of the really good ones might need like 3 or 4. So what you do is you slide your little conveyor belt in, and you always start with this piece of cocoa, cocoa, and then you can manipulate your factory parts. So you'll pay coal, this one will upgrade it to this, but then this one underneath, because your factory has 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom, and then you slide it through, and you can put parts in all those different places. You do start with one already on your board, but it's really thinky and neat, and there's a lot of like AP, because you can all run your factory at the same time, but you're thinking, okay, well, I really need these to come out, because you can't get the chocolate until it comes out of the factory, except there's one spot in the middle where it can shoot out there quickly if you need it quicker. But once it's past that point, you have to wait till it comes out. And so you're trying to figure out how to turn these chocolates into, the ones that you need to fulfill. And at the end of the round, if you had a bunch of chocolate and you can't use it to fill anything, well, it goes away. You can only store, I think, 2 or 3 maybe pieces. So it's very, very AP, this game. it's very thinky and just trying to figure out, okay, because I can only move this one once and then manipulate. You can only manipulate each factory part once per round. So you have to figure out, okay, then when I push this next one up, I've already done that one, so I can't do that one again. But it's so thinky. Like, I don't think people realize when they buy this cutesy chocolate factory game that it's going to have that much thinkiness to it, but it's still really fun. And that's my number 1, Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, I'm looking at pictures of it now. It does look really neat.
It is, but it's I would say it's hard. It's hard for me. Maybe people who can it's hard to like figure out what's going to happen after you've done one thing and then pushed everything over. That's the part where you're like, okay, but that's going to do this is going to do that. So that's where the real brain burner comes in, but it's
nice.
Still neat. It's a good one. And those designers, they've done so many different games, like from roll and rights to like just, heavier games. They're just unreal. I really enjoy them. Matthew Dunstan, Brett J. Gilbert. But yeah, that's our top 9. That's awesome. There's a few coming up that I just have to mention because it's so cool. Well, one has been made, but I have never been able to find it. It's called Macaroons. Have you ever seen this one?
Oh,
it's a trick-taking game. And I mean, it just has pictures of the cards are macaroons, so it's got to be neat. But there's one coming up, and it's called Charcuterie. So you know how we all love our charcuterie boards?
Yeah.
Well, this is a whole game about it, and I have no idea.
About putting a board together?
I don't know, but it sounds cool, and I've never seen it, so I'm looking forward to that. And then Azul is coming out with a chocolatier version of their game. So it's going to just be all wrapped chocolate tiles.
Nice.
And I think there's going to be one little different mechanism in it, so it's not just going to be a complete remake of the main game.
Right.
But, so that one's kind of neat. So I'm looking forward to those. But yeah.
Nice.
So next week we are talking about our supposed least favorite, well, for me, one of my least favorite genres, but found out I still have tons and have played tons and enjoyed tons of these type of games, and that's area control. And I think kind of similar goes for you, right?
Yeah, it's like, well, and I think it's just because the Risk. I really did not enjoy Risk as growing up, and my brother would make me play all the time, and I would be like, oh, I hate area control. I hate area control. And then we'd play games like, okay, I love this. I was like, that was area control. I was like, but I hate area control. Yes. So maybe I don't.
I wonder if we're just good at it, but we didn't think we liked it. So we're like, well, I like it because I'm good at it. But I don't know.
It's funny.
So it should be an interesting list.
Yeah.
But until next week, if people want to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
So on Instagram, I'm Mel's_boardgame_room. My Facebook page is Mel and Friends Board Game Room. And then my YouTube channel is Mel's Board Game Room. And how about you, Carla? Where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram at Board Game Specialist, all one word, and Facebook. I have a page called Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. Well, that is it for this week. Stay tuned for next week when we talk about our area control games. And bye for now. Thanks for listening.
Bye.